Alright, good morning guys. Monday, September the 4th, Labor Day. Hopefully everybody's having a great Labor Day long weekend. About 9:30 in the morning. Looks like it's going to be a nice day today. So we're back working on the TR6, getting that rear end put back together. So we're going to put the sliding axles back together today. We'll get them all lubed up. We'll get the U-joints all greased up. And we'll get the splines all greased up. So that's job 1 today. We're also just cleaning up the sway bar hardware, which I neglected to do. I should have painted this yesterday with the sway bar. So anyway, we just got this soaking in a little bit of degreaser. We're going to get those cleaned up. We're going to get all the fasteners for the axles and the drive shaft cleaned up. We've got new nylocks somewhere around we've got to dig out. So anyway, we're in the process of cleaning all that stuff up to get that back on the car. I've got the oven cleaner out here. We're going to oven cleaner the stainless steel exhaust to get that oil residue all cleaned up. So we've got a few jobs to go today anyway, so let's get started. We'll, like I said, start by cleaning some of this hardware up, and maybe we'll get a quick coat of paint on it and get it drying in the sun while we move on those sliding rear axles. So we're making progress. We've got the axles ready to go. We've just greased the U-joints, and we've got a little bit of grease down in here. We're going to grease the splines on the other, the input shaft as well. We've got the hardware cleaned up, and we've got all new nylocks. These are important. Basically, they're machine bolts. Make sure you have the right ones. Resist the urge to put a regular bolt in there in the flanges for the axles and for the drive shaft. Don't do it. So new nylocks for the sway bar end links. We've got the hardware cleaned up for the bushing keepers, or the plates, or whatever we're going to call them. Over here we've got some painting going on. So we've got these with the second coat of gold, and we'll come back and hit them with those red and green chromate tints and then clear coat them. So anyway, we're going to get into the car and we're going to install those little axles. Alright guys, just about a 12 noon update, and full disclosure, we've had a little bit of a setback, let's call it. So, my fault. I figured you could get the other part of the axles in with the diff and with the hub in. But in actuality, there's not enough room, or at least I don't think I have the patience to try to do it. I did drop the trailing arm down as low as I could to see if I'd have enough room. There's really not enough room to get the axle lined up with the splines because it interferes with the flange on the diff, and it just was pretty frustrating. So what I ended up doing is just pulling the hub back out, which maybe sounds a little easy, but that means pulling the nylocks off and pulling the hub out and putting new nylocks on and getting everything torqued back down again. So it's a bit of work to do that. So, full disclosure, if you're going to do what I'm doing, you either want to put that inner axle on before the diff goes on, or on when you slide the axle assembly through the hub. Regardless, it's got to be done before the diff's in place and before you actually bolt the hub into the brake back plate. So, live and learn. I should have known, but I haven't worked on this car for a little while, so I thought I'd have the room to do it, but obviously I don't. Anyway, back to work. We're going to finish this side. We've got the axle in the other side. We're going to put the axle on this side. I still haven't got under the car to bolt it up yet, but we'll get the axle, the inner axle, installed at least, and then we'll get under the car and bolt it up. Alright, 1:30 update. The axles are now in. We just have the 4 fasteners left for the drive shaft to do, so we're going to get under there and do that now. It's a little bit of wrenching under there for sure. You got a couple open-end wrenches working. There's no access for sockets, so a lot of twisting and turning under there on your back, and reaching upwards, the blood draining out of your arms, etc. So it's not an easy task for sure. The other problem is that since they're nylock nuts, you can't really thread the nut as far down as you'd like to, so because it'll actually start hitting the nylon threads. So you've got a long way to wrench it down to where it needs to be to tighten up. So anyway, part of owning a TR6, I guess. Anyway, we'll get back under there, put those last 4 fasteners in for the drive shaft, and then we'll figure out what else to do. Well, I figure while we're under the car doing those last 4 fasteners, we'll get the oven cleaner out and we'll do the bottom of this exhaust and see if we can get some of that oil residue off. So we'll let that sit and work while we're finishing off underneath the car. A quick look at what that oven cleaner does. I've just sort of wiped off the first coat over here, and you can see it does a pretty good job. We'll have to do a couple applications, but it's getting a lot of it off. So we'll do another application, let it sit for a bit, and we'll come back to it. Alright guys, sway bar time. So there's the freshly painted sway bar, and we got to put those bushings back on. And we've got the freshly painted caps and all the hardware down there. So we're going to slide back under the car and see if we can fit that sway bar back up without too much hassle and without getting too many dings on it. So just a quick 4 o'clock update. Waiting on a thunderstorm. Getting pretty windy and pretty dark out. Hearing some thunder in the distance. So just put a second coat of, we're just doing some painting touch-ups on the frame rails under the rear of the car. So that's been done. We just put our second coat on, so we should be good with that. We did get the sway bar back on, so I'm happy with that. No issues. It didn't look like I marked the bar up very much, if at all. So drive shaft's connected, axles are connected to the diff, so that's a good thing. Everything's looking good and back together as far as the suspension and brakes are concerned. Everything's tightened down. So we're pretty much done with the rear of the car, I would say. With the exception of, obviously we need to put the muffler back on. We're still working on that. Got the last little bit of grease, burnt on grease left to go here, but it looks much better than it did to start with. So we'll give that one more coat, one more little scrub, and we should be done. And then we'll flip it over and have a look at the other side. The other side's not too bad. That's the top side. So anyway, we're making progress. But like I said, we're probably going to have to move inside pretty soon. Alright, see you in a bit. Pretty cool clouds up there. Sort of hear that thunder rumbling. Seen a few little bits of lightning here and there. So I think we're in for a pretty good storm shortly. Pretty dark for 4:30 in the afternoon. Anyway, we'll hang out in the garage for a bit more. We've moved everything inside that we needed to. There's the exhaust done. Much, much better. Still a few little spots on it that I probably could get off if I wanted to sand them off, but I'm not going to bother. So, yeah, a little bit messy out in the garage. I need to clean up out here at some point. Got all my tools piled up on the 250. But anyway, I'm happy that the rear end of the car is pretty much back together. Like I said, the next thing we need to do is just put that exhaust back in, and then to be followed by the rear and center pipes. But we got to wait basically for the manifold gaskets for the downpipe and for the head. So that will probably be 2 days before I receive those. So we'll do some make work projects in here. In the meantime, I still need to do a little bit of painting down there and on the other side as well. So we're getting into those cosmetic items that I'd mentioned earlier, like possibly this chassis cross tube and these radiator supports. We'll see. I could also do the front disc brake rotors are on my list, so I might be able to do those. So anyway, I think we're going to have a little break and watch the storm. Hopefully that'll pass, and then we can get back out here a little later on. Hey guys, Tush coming at you. It's Tuesday, September the 5th, and the rain finally stopped. Boy, it rained a long time yesterday, late afternoon into the evening. Still got some water dripping from the east trough, but bright and sunny today anyway, so that's a good thing. Anyway, we're going to continue on working on the 73 TR6. We're just about to get under the car and do a little detailing work under there. We've got some detailer and some cloths. We're just going to wipe down the bottom of the trunk floor pan before we put the exhaust back up. We've got the exhaust just sitting over there ready to go. So that's the next step in the process, is to get the exhaust, at least the rear section, put back on the car. We still don't have the gasket for the exhaust and intake manifold, although I did in my parts hoard, I found a gasket for the downpipe, so we'll put that to good use. It will at least put the downpipe back on. The other thing I had on my list was to do the front rotors. So we've got a set of drilled and slotted rotors to go on this car as well, if we decide we want to do that. I think we'll probably do that because I'm going to end up waiting for parts to arrive in the mail, so we'll probably have a little bit of spare time to tinker around. Anyway, so without further ado, we'll get under the car and we'll do a little bit of cleaning. Maybe we'll take a little video under there so you can see the sway bar installed and some of the detail work that I've done under the car. I don't know how much you'll be able to see, but I'll take you under there with me anyway. Alright guys, looking pretty good under here. There's the diff installed and pretty darn clean, and there's the new sway bar. I managed to get it in here without really marking it up too badly. Here's the bottom of the trunk pan, all nice and clean. So we've just given that a quick wipe down. We'll just maybe give it one more quick wipe, but that's looking pretty good. And we've got the exhaust cleaned up. You've seen that yesterday, so we're just about ready to put that back up. And there's the hanger for that. So anyway, looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy, so we'll throw the exhaust up there. Alright guys, a quick look at the underneath of the rear of the car. And I'm pretty happy with that. And it's looking pretty clean. Almost back to restored condition. So yeah, happy with that. Get the exhaust is down a little bit on the right hand side because those front pipes are not connected yet, but that'll straighten up once those pipes are done. The frame looks good back here. Just a few little touch-ups on the frame. Other than that, looks good. Alright guys, we're going to start working on that downpipe as we mentioned. So there's the new gasket for the downpipe. And all I want to do is really just clean up this flange a little bit. Get off some of that old gasket material. And I want to clean off the bottom of these pipes. It's got some old sealing gasket on here. Just that muffler paste. I've always had problems with this Falcon exhaust sealing a little bit, so we've used a little bit of exhaust paste as well. So we're going to get all that old paste off there. And to do that, we're just going to use a little fiber disc, like a little 3M fiber disc. We don't want anything too abrasive, so we'll just use a little fiber disc to whiz that stuff off of there. Alright guys, there's the exhaust all cleaned up and ready to go back on the car. As you might notice, I've done a quick sandblast on the end of the tips. It suggests for the muffler compound that you lightly sand the areas before you apply the paste, so that should suffice with the sandblasting. So there we go. I'm just going to mount that downpipe to the exhaust manifold now with the brass nuts. I'm going to clean those up a little bit, and then I'll be ready to go back on the car. Well, it was a nice day earlier. We've had a lot of rain this year, and like torrential rain. It's really coming down now. You can see it sort of sheeting across the driveway over there. Anyway, good thing my trailer is fairly waterproof. Oh well. Alright guys, we're just reassembling the exhaust manifold with that downpipe. So we've got some copper anti-seize here we're going to put on the stud, so if we ever have to get this off again, it won't be an issue. We did clean the brass nuts up a little bit. They didn't come up very good, but anyway, new lock washers, and we're good to go. We've got the gasket in place. There you can see it there. So all is good. And we'll go ahead and do that and just get one more job done. Alright guys, let's have a look at the list that we're working off of. So remove the exhaust. I've got the exhaust obviously removed. I've got it ready to refit, so I'd say number one is done. Paint coast exhaust manifold is done as well. Just waiting on that one new intake exhaust gasket. I do have the downpipe gasket installed, so waiting on parts for that. Drop differential, do the axle seals, that is crossed off. Grease the sliding axles, that's done. Grease the U-joints, that's done. Install the HD lever shocks, that's done. We're kind of working on the engine bay detail and paint. You know, we've cleaned up a few little areas in there, but not too much. A new enamel badge I don't have. The one that I wanted to order is back ordered, so that won't be happening. The fluid checks, we're still going to do that, and the door seals, if we have time, we'll do that. So really what else left on this list here that I can do right now is the drilled slotted rotors. So I think we're going to start working on that. We're also going to get a marker out and start crossing stuff off so we don't get lost. There we go, that looks a little better. Looks like we're making some progress. So on to the drilled and slotted rotors. Alright guys, we've got the passenger side rotor and hub assembly off the car. So we're just going to detach the hub from the rotor. And that entails getting these 4 bolts out of here. Usually I use my heavy duty impact wrench to get those out. They're usually in there pretty firmly. So anyway, we'll grab that socket and we'll zip those out of there. Alright, we have the new rotor attached to the hub, and we've used a little blue Loctite. I was thinking red, but we went with blue. Brand new lock washers on there. We're just cleaning up the bearings, and we're going to repack those. So I've got the air compressor just charging up so I can blow those out. And new felt seals coming as well. So anyway, things are looking good. So we're getting pretty close to getting that back on the car. Like I said, we'll just repack those bearings and refit it. Alright guys, just wanted to give you a quick shot of the drilled and slotted rotor installed. So we're happy with that. We've got everything cleaned up and lubed up in here. And it's looking pretty good. So we're just about to put the road wheel back on. Before we're putting the wheels on, we've been cleaning the inside of them and just waxing them to keep some of the brake dust off the inside of them. So that's always a good thing to do while you have the wheels off, just to clean the inside of the rim. Might be a little overkill, but makes me happy, so we're going to do it. Anyway, that's it for tonight, guys. We'll upload this, and we'll get back out of here tomorrow, and we'll try to tackle the driver's side, although that toolbox over there is a little close for comfort, so we might have to put the car down and move it out a little bit for me to be able to get to that side, but we'll see.